Good evening, sir, and good evening, everyone. I, Shreya Gupta, welcome you all on the behalf of the Extramural Lectures team, IIT Madras, for a very special lecture on the topic Atmanirbhar Bharat and India in 2047. Today we have with us a very influential personality, the Honorable Union Minister, Shri Hardeep Singh Puri. Shri Hardeep Singh Puri is an author, politician, and is currently serving as the Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas and Minister of Housing and Urban Affairs in the Government of India. He served as the Joint Secretary to the Government of India in the Ministry of External Affairs from 1994 to 1997 and from 1999 to 2002, and also in the Ministry of Defense from 1997 to 1999. He later served as the Secretary to the Government of India in the Ministry of External Affairs from 2009 to 2013. He was India's ambassador to Brazil and also served as the permanent representative of India to the United Nations from 2009 to 2013. Now I would like to invite the Dean of Students, Professor Vasa, to present Shri Hardeep Singh Puri with the fruit basket as a token of our respect. Now I would like to invite Shri Hardeep Singh Puri to deliver his talk.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Why don't you come and join me instead of standing? Okay, come. Well, I was looking forward to this interaction for a variety of reasons. When I joined university, that was the year 1968, I did my first degree between 68 and 71, my master's 71 to 73, I taught for a year. The India of 1968 or the India of 1973, when I finished post-graduation, was very different from the India of today. I'll be very frank with you. You all belong and you have the privilege of studying not only in one of the finest institutions in India, but if you look at any global ranking, you will figure there also. Today, one of my younger colleagues on my team sent me some ranking somewhere done where saying IIT Madras or IIT Chennai was fourth in that ranking. So I'm not surprised. But my happiness to interact with you is not because you're all very bright and you're in a very prestigious institution. But I personally believe that whenever I interact with youngsters, I always add to my understanding. And I'll share a little thought with you. I have a friend who's a very close friend who's also one of the world's most famous authors. He has written very famous books. Some of you may have read them, like Anti-Fragile, Black Swan, moment. I mean, they become. He was telling me once that the real research is not done in university laboratories, but it is done through the exchange of ideas which take place when you're interacting with young people or with bright minds. So I'm very happy to be here for that reason also. The third reason is, and why I started with myself, I entered the university in 1968. My parents, my mother and father, came as refugees from what is now Pakistan. And they literally came with just the clothes that they had on. At least my father. My mother's family came a little earlier. The only reason I am where I am today is because of education. But that was all, whatever little property you had, whatever little stake you had in material things, all got left behind. When I entered the job market, I'll be blunt, if you either applied for a job in the government, why the government? Because the government was a large employer, or there were one or two banks you could apply for, one or two private sector companies in my time if you were a good student. But the kind of opportunities that you have now, today, any bright youngster entering the job market, what is the context? And I want to spend a minute or two on the context and then we'll have an interaction. You know, the Honorable Prime Minister was speaking, outlining 5 Panch Pran. Let me explain to you. He said, 1, let us resolve that we will be a developed nation by 2047. Today we are in 2025. I don't think it requires knowledge of rocket science to say that most of you must be what? 18, 19? All right? In the next 25 years, you will be what? 40 plus? So, when India is a developed nation, and I'm being quite frank, we are already the world's 3rd largest economy. By 2030, we'll be the world's 3rd largest economy. Without any doubt, even if we were not to really make too much effort, because that's the logic, that's the imperative at which the economy is growing, because, and by 2047, I don't know, because there'll be 17 years between 2030 and 2047. I mean, I just want to draw your attention to a few things which I get startled on and impressed in a positive way. In 2015, we had 4 new unicorns. In 2018, we had 8. In 2019, we have 9. In 2020, 10 new unicorns. In 2021, 42 new unicorns. Now, my ministries, the 2 ministries I deal with, Housing and Urban Affairs and Petroleum and Natural Gas. I'll give you just one example. We have a very strong relationship with your institution. We rely on your academic work. We rely on your professors helping us. The other day, I had a meeting with an oil minister of a particular country, and we're looking at, I told my secretary, please consult 2 IITs, you were one of them, on seeing how we should go forward with the idea. I met a youngster, and I'd heard about this. It just so happened that we connected this now. They're producing, using the latest technology, a living space which can be created in what, 29 days? I thought he told me, no, 21 days. 3D printing. Now, my first question, have you commercially put it to use? Why am I giving this example? This is one of many examples I can give you. I believe for the first time in the history of this country, the Prime Minister wants us to be a developed country by 2047. I have no doubt we will get there. We should remove the traces of the colonial mindset from our thinking. On that also, I have absolutely no doubt. We should live in unity and solidarity, and we all must have a sense of belonging and a sense of identification with what is happening. Now, I'm a student of history. I'll give you just one figure, and then I'll open this up for what I call a robust interactive exchange. There was a Cambridge historian, a man called Angus Maddison. He predicted that in the year 1700, the contribution of the Indian economy to the global economy, that is the global GDP, was over 20-25%. I think it was 27%, he said. Then came Plassey, 1757. Then came 190 years of interaction with the colonial power. And the figure which I have, which I think is a solid figure, is the census of 1950, 3 years after we became an independent country. And from that, global contribution GDP from something like 20, 25, 27%, it came down hurtling to 3%. Now, I am not making a political statement here. I have always maintained that if we got colonized, there's something that we would have also, some of us didn't understand the full value of what nationhood is. People say, no, India is a young nation. It may be a young nation in the sense of 1947, but we are a 7,000-year-old civilization. Now, reclaiming our national heritage, I think that's a solid part of it. Why do we want to be defined in terms of less than 1 or 2% of our national existence? We had republics in the east of India, in a place called Vaishali, hundreds and thousands of years before Christ. We were a democracy. So we are not only the world's largest democracy, we are also a mother of democracies. The point I'm making is, if the Prime Minister says we should be a Viksit Desh, that's a developed country, if we should shed the vestiges or the last traces of a colonial mindset, if we should reclaim our heritage, that's all part of that. Now, why is it important now? First time, I think you've been born into a country, into an ecosystem where today, when you graduate from this institution, you're not looking for a job. You're also looking at the possibility of creating jobs. That is the fundamental difference that I see happening. I was looking at some of the figures. The kind of money that is being committed by the government on the startups. Put that aside. I asked my young friend who was doing this new 3D, what is the full name of this technology? 3D. I said, I'm sure if you had, he said, no, we have no shortage. Venture capitalists happy to come in and do that. I belong to a world where I'm absolutely clear. The power of ideas and the power of a good education and the idea on top of a superstructure or infrastructure of good education is a path-breaking idea. Now, I have lived 39 years. I taught for a year in a Delhi University college from 73 to 74. I joined the Foreign Service after that. I served for 39 years outside. I've lived in all the countries which you can call developed. United States, I was ambassador to the UN. UK, I was Deputy High Commissioner. I've lived in Japan. But I can tell you with confidence, the kind of buzz I see in India today, when I travel around the world today, I don't see in any other country. So I think we are very fortunate that we are part. The COVID, my last two comments. COVID, everybody, the world around was collapsing. There's a large country which is not a democracy, which is a $12 trillion economy, where the major cities are under lockdown. When I go to a public meeting, and I do quite a few these days, I ask anyone, is there anyone amongst you who has not had 2 vaccines? Nobody raises the hand. I ask a question, is any of you had 3 vaccines? A lot of hands go up. Now, on last count, which I looked at a few days ago, we had distributed 219 crore free vaccine doses throughout the country. That was a healthcare system. The previous government had disbanded whatever vaccine manufacturing capacity we had in the public sector. They disbanded it between 2004 and 14. The Prime Minister not only built it, today we have not every Indian is vaccinated, our children have access to it, and we have supplied it to remote corners of the world. So I can go on and on. I just inaugurated with the Honorable Chief Minister the new, the metro building in Chennai. It's a state-of-the-art building. When Mr. Vajpayee was Prime Minister of India in 2002, we didn't have a single kilometer of metro. And there was a metro run by the railways in Calcutta, but it's very small. Today we have 810 kilometers of metro lines operational. We have in Chennai 54 kilometers of operational metro line. And there is a proposal before the cabinet for another 172 kilometers. Before COVID struck us, the metro ridership in Chennai was about 90 lakhs in a day. 90,000 in a day. Today it's 3 times that. So I saw the clips of young people who are professionals saying how their professional lives have benefited. But apart from the 810 kilometers operational, we also have another 1030 kilometers under construction. In a few months' time, we will overtake Japan, Korea, and the United States. Maybe United States it takes a little longer, to become the second largest metro urban transport system, only after China. So this is the world which you are going to inherit, because in 2047, 25 years from now, I'm already 70 years old. With the best will in the world, my generation cannot work beyond a certain point, but that 2047 moment is yours. So what you do out of your education and the advantages you take, you will provide the leadership. Not only the thought leadership, but the actual operational decision-making leadership. So I'm very happy to be here, and I'd be happy to throw this open to questions now. Thank you. Please identify yourself, and then, I can take either one question at a time or a few together.
Good evening, sir. I am Kaushik Raja from Humanities Department, and I'm feeling very happy to interact with you. The thing I want to ask is like the dream of every sociologist, every political theorist is like having an utopian society where everyone is very equal. But the thing is that the factors of the lifestyles, many factors affects the possibility of that utopian society emerging. The beauty of democracy is that it takes time to create a proper plan in the society. So even if you go on see on every developed countries like US, we cannot see the equality of utopian society maintaining there. So can we see India after 2047 having a utopian society, achieving the dream of utopian society?
Thank you very much. You used three terms or concepts which I would want to respond to. One is utopia, the other is democracy, and the third is equality. In my generation, utopia was viewed by many people as an ideal state where milk and honey flowed down the roads and everything was perfect. Has that utopia been created anywhere in the world? May have been. There may be small countries with very limited demographic pressures, with very rich resources, where people don't have to pay taxes and they invariably end up feeling happier than other places. There are small countries which have what is called a happiness quotient, a small country in India's neighbor. The second is democracy. Now, the word democracy is also very loosely used. But I think if the word democracy has any meaning, it is in a country like India. Why? Because A, we are a large country. B, we have diversity. C, democracy has both a means and a system to resolve the differences in thinking and the differences in entitlement. And democracy is also, a lot of people used to tell me when I was much younger, India is a democracy, therefore the rate of growth is slow. I used to argue then, rate of growth is not slow because we are a democracy. Rate of growth is slow because we must have done things which are not conducive to growth. Today, you are a democracy, everybody acknowledges you are the world's largest democracy, you're also the mother of democracies. And you're the fastest growing major economy in the world. Will you get perfect equality? I don't know. But I believe education will get you a sense of growth and equality which wealth will not get you. Education can produce wealth, both of ideas and in terms of what I regard as material well-being. I'm using it later. I'm so impressed. I interact with young people no matter where I go. The questions that come at me are, your first question, utopia. ideal, I agree. We should all strive for utopia. But should we allow our fanciful dreaming of what is utopia to detract us from the real thing of what democracy and growth can produce? Equality. We have a system of affirmative action. There are segments of our society which have been completely, through a traditional hundreds of years, they have not been given an opportunity. Today, I mean, see what technology is doing. A country which did not make a single mobile or iPhone is now exporting $1 billion worth. I have a friend who lives outside. He said, but it's only $1 billion. I said, but it started now, na? Give it a little time. It'll be $5 billion, then be $10 billion. So that is the transformation. And I think we are on a good path. By 2047, now I want to complete my answer. Yes, we will be a developed country. Yes, our GDP will be, we may be the second largest GDP country in the world. You know, what the ranking just now is, US is at 22, $23 trillion. China is at $12 trillion. We are the number 3. We are at 3 point something going. We'll be $5 trillion in 2025, $10 trillion in 2030. But between 2030 and 2047, I think we'll be at second position. How equal will we be? You guys have to work that out. Because you will then be in the positions of decision making. Because it's not just what decisions you take, what kind of narrative you have. If you have a positive, healthy desire to do good by your citizens, you will be a very equal society.
Thank you for this opportunity, sir. My name is Chirag Khalde. I am PhD scholar from Petroleum Engineering program. Sir, the question I had was, like, we had a scheme declared by the government in something 17-18 on Satat Yojana. It was specifically for compressed biogas, sir, where we were trying to replace the natural gas with CBG, and there was a lot of advertisement also being done about it, and all were expecting after 18 or 19 we can see some of the big plants put up, but it's hardly something done. Maybe it can just replace the problem what is going on in stubble burning in Punjab and Haryana. So maybe it needs a good look. It's a very interesting problem from a researcher's perspective, where you can just convert waste to energy.
No, thank you very much, first of all, for asking the question. I came here thinking this is all going to be housing and urban affairs, but I'm glad that my other ministry, which is petroleum and natural gas. I'll answer your question very briefly, but you'll get the picture. There is a scheme called SATAT. You're aware of that? The Honorable Prime Minister's vision is that 5,000 compressed biogas plants will be set up. Now, the scheme had been a little slow in taking off, but now it is doing rapid progress. A few days ago, I'll answer both compressed biogas and biofuels also, if you don't mind. About a few weeks ago in Panipat, the Honorable Prime Minister inaugurated virtually, and I was there physically on the ground, a biofuels manufacturing facility which will make ethanol from agricultural waste. And by November this year, we will have 90 million liters of ethanol produced from agricultural waste and bamboos, etc. Point one. A few days ago in Sangrur in Punjab, Panipat is in Haryana, in Sangrur in Punjab, a facility was inaugurated by the Honorable Chief Minister of Punjab and by me, where they are making compressed biogas from agricultural waste. Now, why is it suddenly begun to pick up? I'll tell you, the government has to step in with the devising of a stable ecosystem. In the case of the biofuels facility in Panipat, I spoke to the Chief Minister. I said, all you need to do is a little bit of help is required for an aggregator to collect the agricultural waste. Because farms are spread out. So I think we paid something like 1,000 rupees a ton for the aggregator to bring it in. And then also I increased the rate for compressed biogas for the second one from 46 rupees to 54 rupees. Now things are thriving. Now there are many people, and we have the buyback. In ethanol, let me give you, because I don't think you're busy, in compressed biogas and natural gas, the molecule is the same. Now, methane. Now what is happening is, we are moving on all fronts. Our biofuels, we tried when I was ambassador to Brazil, I'm talking about the year 2006, the government of the day then had a plan to have 5% ethanol blending in 10 or 15 of our states and union territories. 5% target. We couldn't even get 1.4%. When Mr. Modi became Prime Minister in 2014, the biofuel blending was at 1.4%. Today we are doing 10%. And we had a target of 20% biofuel blending by 2030. We have brought the target to 2024-25. By April 23, E20 fuel will be available in many of our bunks, petrol bunks, as a pilot project. So movements are taking place now all over. I'll just give you one statistic. We did a calculation on how much biofuels, ethanol, made from different feeds. I am against ethanol to be made from sugar and cane and sugar cane and corn, because it affects food security. But if you have surplus, do it. I am all for ethanol to be produced from rice husk, broken grain, agricultural waste, because then that way you also avoid the parali burning which pollutes Delhi. We calculated we needed 1,000 crore liters, 1,000 crore liters. We were already having, prior to this new policy and new tenders, 450 crores. We have tendered for another 400 crores. So we are working at breakneck speed. So it's only a matter of time. Now I attended a meeting of the Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers called SIAM, SIAM. And we had invited Brazilian automobile manufacturers. You know, Brazil has German manufacturers, German cars being made, Japanese cars being made using flexi-fuel engines. So all that is happening. So when the Sangrur plant was inaugurated, now it's fully functional, it was making 6 tons per day of compressed biogas. It's going to go up to 33 tons per day. So these are big, big developments.
Good evening, sir. I am Rushikesh Kant. Sir, I think that my question is very vague. But, sir, the thing I want to ask is that in India, as we see, the development is very unsymmetric. Means it is very unsymmetric. Like there are a few states which are highly developed, but some states and some pockets in the country are very poor. So my question was, like after our engineering and after our completion of education, what can we do to contribute and to make our country uniformly developed?
I think we should be very clear about the concepts we use. Please, if you are saying that we have developmental challenges, it goes without saying. We have developmental challenges. We may be the world's 3rd largest economy in GDP terms, but we have a lot of people to whom the fruits of development have not reached fully. There are states, but nothing is ever constant, let me tell you. There are states which used to be, I shouldn't use the term, but in Hindi they were called Bimaru states. Bimaru means there were 6 states. But when you have the benefit of double engine economic development of the kind what you have a BJP government in the center, a BJP government in UP. UP today is one of the best performing states, no matter which figure you take. I'll give you an example. And I'm not saying it because I'm elected from UP. Forget that. Something that stares you in the face. The Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, which deals with affordable housing, you know, the Honorable Prime Minister said that it's my dream that every Indian citizen, no matter where he or she lives, should have a pakka roof on their head. It should be a modern home with a toilet, a kitchen, cooking gas, clean. Otherwise, we were still burning wet wood and coal and stuff like that. Our mothers and sisters and daughters were choking with the toxic fumes. The Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana was introduced in June 2015. For 17 months after June 2015 in the UP, there was one party which was in power. You can research it. I'm not saying anything which is politically loaded. The Samajwadi Party. They believe in socialism. My ministry, I was not the minister then. The Honorable Venkaiah ji was the minister. They tried their level best. You see, the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana operates because we get demand coming from the states. The states give us the demand. Then we have 4 verticals. In one of them, the state provides the land, we provide some money, they provide some money. Then we do in situ slum rehabilitation, etc., etc. Very interesting, despite all our efforts, the only demand generation that took place in 17 months during the Akhilesh ji's government was 17,000 homes. That's all we could get. Government changed after 17 months and you have Yogi ji's government. In the next 17 months, I don't want to compare total, but 17 months earlier, 17 months later, same scheme had been in existence. You know what that 17,000 got changed into? 17 lakhs. Why? The central government is the same. The secretary was the same. Secretary was from the UP cadre, the joint secretary was UP. You need a push from the state government. And that is what happened. So I find wherever they have governments which are firing on all 6 cylinders, what we say double engine sarkar in Hindi, the same state suddenly has different figures to report. I was in between also civil aviation minister. We have a new airport, international airport coming up in Jewar outside Delhi. After Jewar airport is up, the traffic which Delhi airport and Jewar will produce together, they will be able to handle, is 140 million passengers. Today, that will be the bigger airport than the 3 UK airports, Heathrow, Gatwick and Stansted put together. I used to argue with my secretary. They said, we have about 700 aircraft flying in the air. He said, we'll have 1,200. I said, you're not even calculating correctly. It will be 2,000 aircraft in the air. Please travel by air. Flights are chock-a-block full. I went to Srinagar the other day and I asked the airport director, because I was civil aviation minister for 2 years in between. So they all come to see me to be nice to me. And so I said, how much is the footfall in Srinagar airport? I said, before COVID, it was between 32,000 and 40,000. You know what he told me? It's 120,000 in May. The same Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir, Srinagar, where every day all we heard was young students pelting stones. You remove 370. Today, if you go as a tourist to Srinagar, you don't get air tickets. The hotels are chock-a-block full. And Article 370 was holding back investment. I've had one investor summit, where was it? In Jammu. And we're going to have another one in Srinagar. Look, wherever you have advantages, there are people waiting to step in. So there are states. You said some states are less developed. Well, I think in our system of cooperative federalism, there is also a certain streak of competitive federalism. The center has the same schemes for all states. Why is it that some states take advantage and others don't? Now, you are all very bright and young. Can you seriously tell me that we can develop an economic model which is based on freebies? You cannot. I was at a young age, I think at 27 or 28, I was chairing the Subsidies Committee of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, which is the predecessor to the World Trade Organization. And one thing I was taught as a young professional was subsidies have to be specific, they have to be targeted, they have to be for short duration, and they have to be digressive. Yes, the government of India, when it sees a problem during the pandemic, even while we were paying for 219 crores of free vaccines to be distributed, government of India was feeding 800 million people, 80 crores of our citizens were getting dry ration 3 months in a year. It's still continuing for 3 months. But at the end of the day, that was a consumption subsidy given a very severe global situation because of the pandemic. But now things are rising. Do you really need it? I'm a very proud Punjabi. I told the Chief Minister, the previous one, I said, how much is your debt? He said, 2,81,000 crores. Then he whispered to me, he says, not 2,81,000, it's actually much higher. You can't run a state on the basis of, just borrowing money. Economic activity has to be generated and resources have to come up. Yes, the state steps in a benign, paternalistic way where there are gaps and things have to be done. I'm very confident that given the new focus, new India, 2047, all these challenges about, some states being left behind, I think we'll get over them.
Good evening, sir. I am Naman Sharma from Chemical Department. I want to ask that why did we only choose India at the 2047, not any other year? And my second question is, when we see Atmanirbhar Bharat, but still many people prefer Chinese products that is very cheap or other foreign products. So what are the suggestions for like us, our students?
Well, the answer is I think you've asked the simplest of the questions. Why 2047? Well, that will be 100 years after 1947. So this year, we are celebrating 75 years of independence. And I think the Atmanirbharta is what the Honorable Prime Minister a few years ago, especially when we were faced with challenges like COVID. When COVID reared its ugly head, let me tell you, please. When COVID raised its ugly head, a lot of people didn't fully understand what it was. Because the international community has faced viruses in the past. I was ambassador to the UN in Geneva. I was accredited to the WHO. Then I was in New York. We were on the Security Council. There have been viruses earlier. Ebola, H1N1, swine flu, SARS. SARS had a contagion rate of 17%, which is much higher than COVID. But COVID was like the Spanish flu of 1918. A lot of devastation. So people took a little time. That's when we faced these challenges of supply lines disruption. So Honorable Prime Minister was very prescient, very far-sighted. He said we need to be self-sufficient. Atmanirbharta is self-reliant. But Atmanirbharta doesn't mean closing your doors to the world. No, you became a more responsible member of the international community through Atmanirbharta. So the answer is very simple. 2047, this year it's 75 years, 25 years, it will be 100 years. That's very simple. And Atmanirbharta, I've answered. I think we'll not only be a more responsible member of the international community, but our manufacturing sector, which had been completely destroyed by cheap imports from... No, if you need to import technology, if you need to import, industrial raw material, by all means import. But why do you want to import stuff which you can make at home? No, import if you like. But don't destroy the domestic industry through below the cost of production imports, which is dumped imports. You know how, I'm an old trade negotiator. Let me tell you how, you know how it works. It's very simple. Subsidy is a function which is a charge on the state exchequer. If there is a subsidy, which means the government is paying. Why should my government pay to subsidize something where the consumer is a foreign national? I mean, where does the government get resources from? From the taxpayers. So it stands to reason that the Indian taxpayer should benefit. But dumping or sale below normal value is a enterprise function. Governments don't dump. Companies dump. What do? If your cost of production is X, that's the minimum it costs to produce it. You want market entry somewhere, but your cost of production is higher than the cost at which the other producer is selling into the market. So what do? You do a quick calculation, saying who are the other producers? Let's say 2 or 3 of them. How much more expensive are they? They are at X plus 1, X plus 2, X plus 3. How much will it cost you to get market share? Well, for about 6 months, you'll have to start selling at X minus something. They will go bankrupt because you're sending in dumped goods. When they go bankrupt, you start raising your price. That's a classical case of dumping. Why did we fall for it before the Modi era? I don't have the answer. But these are individual behavioral things. If you can get a cheap product made in some other country, I think if you have a sense of consciousness, you'll say, yeah, I can buy the same product of Indian quality, which is probably superior. It happens in all areas. It happened in textiles and clothing. It happened in toys. So India never manufactured toys. Now today you are a booming toys exporter. So this is it's a complex thing, but it's people like you, when you enter the market, you can see, I am telling you, I am 100% convinced what our startups can do through technology and brain. I mean, I lived in the US. One day I had a nice laugh with somebody. I said, let's draw up a list of all the American companies. Who's heading them? They're all Indians. All guys like you. Some of them stayed back in India and became successful. Some went there. So whether it's Google or Apple or, you know, what's it called, these fintech companies and MasterCard, all Indians. So that's where Mother India comes in. That's where your civilizational values, your education, all these things come in. And that's where you will make a success of it. So why do you need to import cheap goods? I mean, that's my question to you.
Good evening, sir. This is, Gautam Kohli, petroleum engineering student of MTech from Ocean Engineering Department. My question is, like, we have 26 bases in India, but only 7 are under operational since my childhood. The transformation has been done in, it's like in telecom sector, the transformation has been done in digitalization, the transformation has been done in electronics, it has been done in computer science, it has been done. But being a petroleum engineer, the transformation which has been done past 20 years in all the sectors coming, while compared to pure petroleum and natural gas, I don't think the transformation is too much. What do you think the reason is?
First of all, I think, let me place the full facts before you. And then you tell me if there is transformation or not. Our total sedimentary basin is 3.5 million square kilometers, out of which we had 1 million square kilometers, which was no-go area. You didn't allow anybody to do exploration and production there because the Navy had a concern, the Coast Guard had a concern, Space Department had a concern. So effectively 33% was out. All that you were exploiting was 6 to 7% or 7 to 8% of your sedimentary basin. So we'll see what we've done in the last few months. Last few months, 33% of that sedimentary basin, 1 million square kilometers, 99.9% has been freed for exploitation and production. So we've been able to do in the last 6 months what we couldn't do in the last 70 years, number one. Number two, we have made data freely available, National Data Repository. So what has happened? The world has changed completely. What has happened now is all the big companies, Chevron, ExxonMobil, you name it, they're all coming to India for. So if you're doing an MTech now, you're going to enter the market at exactly the right time. Because now the revolutionary change which is coming in this sector is more visible than anything else. Let me not strike to ENP only. I told you about biogas. We had 1.4% blending, we have 10% blending, we are taking it to 20% blending in 2 years' time from now, we are in 2022 by 24-25. Compressed biogas, we're talking about 5,000 SATAT plants. But let me take it a little further. I have always believed that your energy consumption determines your economic growth. Today in the world, as we know the current figures, there are 100 million barrels of crude oil are consumed in a day. I'm talking about one day. 5 million barrels are consumed in India. Today our per capita consumption is 1/3 of the global consumption, but we are growing at 3% and global consumption is growing at 1%. Soon we'll be at the global average and we'll be growing faster. I see the 5 million barrels a day rising to 6, 6.5, 7. You know a small country near Tamil Nadu, where you can't get energy for the love of money. We have given, I think, economic assistance of close to what, $4 billion. Much of this is in the energy sector. I'm not naming a country, but you know what I'm talking about. Today, we are in the month of October, 27th October 2022. In the last 1 year, when the global economy was going through complete turmoil on energy, did you come across any one complaint of energy not being available anywhere? In the Northeast, when it was raining heavily, our oil companies were taking gas cylinders on their shoulders and delivering them to the people. If that isn't a change, what is? Now, we get every day 6 crore people going to the petrol bunk to fill up. 6 crore every day. As I said, that will go up. We are making the transition to green energy. I can tell you about green hydrogen. You see what our companies are doing? They're selling. I participated in the signing of an MOU between a Singaporean company called Keppel and an Indian company called Green Tech yesterday, where the Indian company will be supplying green ammonia to the Singapore company for use in their turbines. When I was at Gastech recently, Indian companies are selling green ammonia to a German company called Unipar. If this isn't the revolution, what is? It's much bigger than any other sector.
So, yeah, so one more question. I want to just extend the thing. So what do you think the dependency of India on foreign countries regarding this oil and natural gas will be the trend?
It's a very a question where you must have a fairly clear idea of perspective and statistics. Last year, our gas production went up by 18%. Last year. This year, our gas production will also go up by 18%. So our import dependence on gas is about 50%. But one statistic I should given you. How do you transport gas? So we have a pipeline system. In 2014, we had 14,500 kilometers of pipeline. Our target is to have 33,500 kilometers. We have already reached 22,500. That's the progress. From 2014 to 2000, in 8 years, we've added 8,000 kilometers. And we will complete the 33,000. In petroleum and diesel, your economy is growing very fast. So, no matter how much we want to reduce the import dependence, but the story there is not whether you are at 85% or 80%. The story is something else. How have you been able to leverage your strength as a large consuming nation? Once prices went up, we started buying from countries where the prices were low. When they started raising the prices, we started buying from elsewhere. So I think India is holding the cards. Our idea is to have both in terms of ecological, net zero, etc. also, but we have assets outside. Those assets we own. They don't sell to India, they sell to other countries. These are commercial operations.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. My name is Anand from Civil Department. So my question is, our Indian country is located in some seismically active zone. So one strong earthquake can make high infrastructure damage and people life, and it can lead to some people life loss and economic loss. So generally we do earthquake restraint design based on the seismic data what we have in earlier. But in India, we have very less amount of seismic data because we have very small number of seismic recording stations. And like IASC and in IIT Roorkee only, we have a very small amount of recording stations there. So, because of that, our codal provisions and all, we are lagging because we don't have a regular update in codal provisions for high-rise infrastructures or like nuclear power plant constructions and all. So my question is, what would be the government strategy on seismic resilient infrastructure and research towards this? What would government policy on that?
No, I've understood your concern. that maybe there is a shortage of seismic data which is resulting in the policy not sufficiently factoring in the building of resilient infrastructure. So I would say I respectfully disagree with that. I'll tell you why. We are making on an average, 700 to 900 million square feet of construction every year, which is equivalent to a Chicago every year. Between now and 2030, you'll have 700 to 900 million. Now, our building laws, etc., people know where an area lies. For instance, Delhi used to be in seismic zone 2 earlier, right? Now Delhi is in seismic zone 4. So all the new buildings that we are making in Parliament, for instance, new Parliament, we are not even making it according to seismic zone 4, we are making it in seismic zone 6, reinforced concrete. So we are doing all that. Maybe the information is not available. I don't think, you see, I should be very careful in my words. There are two incidents which I recall with this thing much before I came into the government. One was a particular earthquake which took place in Gujarat. When was it? I think 2002, I think. Bhuj. And the other was this flooding which took place in Odisha, I think. I think we learnt our lessons. And this is not a political point because before our government, I think the knowledge of what is seismic data, where it is available is there. If some people are not following it, you see, if you come across stray incidents of buildings, it's got nothing to do with seismic data. There is what I call a malpractice born out of, the people who have done it not using the correct technology. I have an incident somewhere in the outskirts of Delhi where the checks didn't take place and the chemicals in the water, what is it called, the particular, it came in and the building corroded. Those are few and far between. So I would say that the knowledge of what needs to be done, the policies, and if there are any shortfalls in something more consciousness on seismic data, I mean the government is always willing to listen to young people who have information on that for us to put it in.
Good evening, sir. I'm Ankit from Mechanical Engineering Department. So these days, youth have started to identify themselves with the idea of nationalism much more than before. I mean, that's what I've observed. And according to you, what role it has played or can play in future for the country's development? I mean, this idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat in 2047. So.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. I think we had put aside about 1 hour, and I'm one of those ministers who please sit down. I'll answer your question happily, but that will be the last question because we have another interaction, I think, with some members of the faculty and so for 40 minutes or so. Look, first and foremost, I look at it differently. I don't look at it in terms of a greater influence in emphasis on nationalism. I don't look at it like that. I was born 5 years after India became an independent country. I went through an educational system which was almost apologetic about being Indian. You know what I'm saying? I went to a university, I joined the Indian Foreign Service. Suddenly it struck me. Were we or were we not drawing assessments on a person's education based on whether he spoke English or French or Spanish? I served in Japan. Nobody spoke English there. They were quite happy learning English. We were almost ashamed of our mother tongues. I'm making a very strong statement. So I don't look at it in terms of a nationalism. I'm looking at it in terms of reclaiming your own heritage and being proud of what you are. I'm a Sikh, I'm a very proud Sikh. I'm married to a Hindu. I equally go to a Gurudwara or a temple with equal ease. And I travel relentlessly through different parts of India. You may speak a different language from, let's say, somebody in another state, but you are essentially the same. The economic aspirations are the same. Why 2047? I think because, frankly, if I'd say we want to be a Viksit or a developed nation in the next 5 years, bright minds like you will say, how can that be? Our per capita income is still low. But when you say next 25 years, I think no one will say that. But am I going to wait to say that we will become a developed nation only by 2047. No, I think 2047 is the outer, it's like the outer periphery. Within that, you'll get it. I mean, you see, I'm a student of development. I find that the GDP actually depends on how well you're growing. It goes up every 5 or 10 years. If I'm saying I will be a $5 trillion economy by 2024 and 25, and I hope to be a $10 trillion economy, it's not because this is wishful thinking, but facts lead to that. You know, when you start at a very small base, it's very different. Our urban population in 1947 was 17%, but our total population was only 350 million. So 17% of 350 million is very small. You know what our urban population in 2030 will be? What, 40%? Which will be 600 million people. So where is 1947 population and 2030 population? That urban population, Modi ji was the first Prime Minister who saw the potential in urbanization, and he saw the challenge and he converted it into an opportunity. Or our central schemes, whether it is Smart Cities Mission or it is, you know, affordable housing or it's Swanidhi for street vendors. How much of the country's GDP do the cities produce? The overwhelming part. Because what is taking place is a system of autonomous urbanization. People are leaving. You know, we used to take great pride in saying India is an agricultural economy. Yes. But the fact of the matter is, if you look at the sectoral, the GDP profile today, I think more than 50% of India's GDP comes from services. The percentage coming from manufacturing is small, but beginning to rise. Agriculture, many people live in the rural areas, but the contribution of agriculture to GDP is declining. Hence, all our efforts to do that. But this is the emerging reality. And I think we will be a developed country by 2047, definitely, but certainly before that also. And as you grow, as your confidence grows, your education, your technology, today, you know, financial inclusion is something that India can be giving a lessons to highly developed industrial economies. I mean, I'm just citing an example. Well, thank you very much. And it's been a great pleasure talking to all of you. I wish we had more time. But I look forward to interacting with all of you on some other occasion as well. Thank you.
Thank you for the informative lecture, sir. Now I would like to invite the EML faculty advisor, Professor Basavaraj, and the EML student head Malvika to facilitate Shri Hardeep Singh Puri with the memento and leave a note of thanks for the IITM community in the EML yearbook.